Welcome. So hopefully, maybe you've been here before. If not, I am Brian Albrecht, a chef ambassador for Carpigiani, and we're so glad to have you with us today. Today being in February, almost the end of February already, we are going to kind of focus into March, get a little bit of celebration into St. Patty's Day. Maybe it'll give you some ideas, something you can utilize either at home or at the shop, if you're both using a shop versus a home. And that was one thing I kind of curious, Olivia, if we could find out maybe how many of our attendees today are home ice cream makers and how many are in a shop ice cream makers, because it helps me to think about how do I present this to the best of my ability. So maybe we can get some feedback on that. But yeah, if you joined us last month, we did a Valentine's Day one. I think they did a chocolate truffle and a raspberry chocolate something. Yeah, so I could not be here for that one, so Marco filled in for me, so I appreciate that, Marco. But today we're going to work on a chocolate chip mint, chocolate chip, and an Irish cream. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to do the alcohol version of the Irish cream today. Darn, right? So I've got a little bit of a way to do it with an alcohol-free version. But if you get the recipes that Olivia is going to send out later, it's got the alcohol version in there if you'd like to play with that. Just be careful and pay attention to the notes on there, because if you add too much alcohol, your product won't freeze. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to get started. I have already sanitized the machine, so it's very important before you start your work shift for the day, or even at home, if you're doing an ice cream at home, that you make sure your product that you're making it in is clean. I was thinking about that a little bit on the way in today. I was like, if I had one of those freezing containers at home that you put into an ice cream maker, sometimes you have to freeze them in the freezer first and then take them out and put them in the machine. You might want to put that clean it out really well and put it in a plastic bag, keep it clean inside your freezer. Just a little tip to maybe make it a little easier, because you can't clean it once it comes out of the freezer, and it still could be kind of dirty. So you want to make sure that that's prepared as well. But as for a batch freezer like this, you're going to use a sanitizer mix. You're going to sanitize it for the machine. It has a countdown timer on it. Most of them do. If not, just time it for about anywhere from a minute to 3 minutes to get yourself a clean machine. And so I've got that all prepped and ready. I've gone ahead and prepared all of my materials, because although you might enjoy being with me, and I enjoy being with you, we don't want to be here all day. So we're going to knock out some ice creams. And again, like I think Marco mentioned last time, once we start one in the machine, we're going to go right into the other one, because we don't want to stop what we're doing. We want to keep that production going, especially if you're in a shop. So we're starting with a natural or neutral base basically there's no flavoring in it. It's a Meadowvale 14% butterfat base. And in that, I'm going to do the mint. There's a couple ways you can do mint. One, for consistency, is a flavoring profile. So you can use a consistent flavor. You kind of get your recipe down, you get your amount of base, and it just stays consistent. And that's what you're going to probably want in a shop, right? Because your customers are coming back in. They want that consistent flavor. If you're at home, you might be able to experiment a little bit. You might be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to try the mint flavoring, but I'd like to really try it with natural mint. There's going to be a recipe included as well that you can actually take the mint stems and leaves and infuse your base over a warm heat for a little while and let it cool down. Great way to do it. It's just in practicality for a shop owner like myself. We just can't do it that way in our production. That doesn't mean if I had a shop that I couldn't do it. I don't have the space or the manpower to do it right now. So I resort to flavoring. Let me slow down, getting tongue-tied. So the flavorings you've seen me use before are Green Mountain Flavors, excellent company to work with. They have a natural mint flavor, but they also have a more of a peppermint flavor that you can use. I tend to use the peppermint more during the holidays, when we do a peppermint stick ice cream, and then the natural mint is my day-to-day mint flavor that you might go in and get a mint chip. The key on any mint, and by the way, I'm just going to show this to you, if you want the peppermint flavor, McCormick's at your grocery store carries the peppermint flavors. That's certainly something to utilize. Again, peppermint to me is more holiday, Christmas. This is a natural, more of a spearmint flavor, and I prefer that one for my ice cream in a day-to-day basis. Now, when I peppermint candies and throw them in the peppermint ice cream. That's when I use the peppermint. So I've got some flavoring of that, the mint flavoring. I've got 3,000. Your recipe that you'll get is for 1,000. If you're going to multiply that to make a larger, just scale up your recipe. So that's what I've done here today. So I have measured out the mint already, and I'll grab a spatula. Wish I had a little smaller one, but so I'm going to take my mint emulsion and put that in. I've got about, I think it was 10 grams. And I'm not going to worry too much about getting everything out of that cup yet, because I'm going to just go with what's in here, because I think that might be enough. I use not too much more of that in my shop for 2.5 gallons. So I want to be careful with that mint. Mint is a strong flavor that you don't want to be messing around with. Once you've gone over, it's too late. We did that once, excuse me, in our shop, and I had to kind of call it double mint gum or something like that because it was really minty, but we actually had people that really liked it. So, and mint ice cream is one of those things you're going to get customers in your shop that, and you may be sitting there too, was like, I don't like mint ice cream, but there are customers in the shop that just don't like mint ice cream. They think it tastes like toothpaste. And I think that's the key to me, is getting the right mint profile and the right amount of mint in your product so that it doesn't taste like toothpaste. Some shops will stop here. They'll run this, advertise it, market it as a white mint. That's fine and dandy, especially if I would prefer a white mint over a fake coloring any day. But we happen to have some spirulina and spirulina powder, or even a green color blend that Green Mountain offers. This is really kind of readily available at maybe Whole Foods or Amazon or something. So I wanted to show that to you as an option to get your ice creams to be green in color. So again, I did not add all my mint to my base. I want to taste that because I want to see if that mint is strong enough, too strong. I want to make sure I'm okay right there. I think it's kind of light, not bad light, but I'm going to go ahead and put in just a little bit more. Again, I'm not worried about, my spatula is not going to clean this little container anyways. So but I can certainly add some more and not be a problem. So if I was doing this again, I might drop back. I had, I think, 10 grams measured out, and I might drop back to 8. The recipe, I think, calls for 5 to 10 grams or something like that. No, 3 to 5 grams per liter. So I've got 3 liters here. Again, tasting it. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit stronger mint profile, which I want. Because remember, when we put this in the machine, I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, that your flavor is going to degrade a little bit in the machine because you're adding what? Air, right? So that air is being incorporated in this, so it's spreading that flavor out a little bit thinner. So it's okay if it's a little strong here. When it comes out, hopefully it'll be right where you want it. And I've got a nice mint aftertaste, which is what I'm looking for now. So I think I should be fine. So with the spirulina powder or green color blend, there are certain amounts you will find that your preferred green. So I'm just going to start with literally a pinch, kind of like a pinch of salt, pinch of spirit, because it's really strong and really dark. We're going to see what color that gets us. Let me wipe my hands off so that everything I touch turns green. I don't want the Midas touching for the green. That's gold. And I would probably, being as fine as this powder is, another little tip, I didn't have any problems with it today, but another little tip would be to add just a little bit of sugar to it and let that spirulina powder bind to the sugar. Not a lot. You don't want to really make your flavor sweet, but you want to prevent clumping of the spirulina powder. I've got just a tiny bit of clumping in there. Might take a tablespoon of sugar and mix that in with that. But you can see it's not getting very green. So I might have to add more spirulina. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some sugar. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. I had like a cup of sugar, but I don't know if you can see in my bowl, I'm probably only put maybe a tablespoon, not even that in there. And so I added 1 pinch and it's barely making it green. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I would normally measure that out someplace, so that I would wake up. Since I have my gloves on, I'm just going to stir that together. Sometimes our hands are our best utensils. So now I've got really kind of a really dark green sugar. I don't know if you can kind of see that there. And I'm going to be stirring that in at the same time I'm pouring. And I'm not going to add it all on time. I'm going to sprinkle it in. And again, I'm choosing spirulina again because it's a natural color, right? I'm trying to get away from, in our shop, we try not to use, if we can help it at all possible, any artificial colorings. Some of our flavors, we do a cheer wine flavor in our shop, and that's got automatically right now the red dye. So there's no way around that one. But hopefully in the future, people will accept that as a clear cheer wine, I guess, instead of red. If you're not familiar with cheer wine, from not from around here, that is a Carolina invention of a really wild cherry soda pop. Hard to find everywhere else, but it was actually about an hour and a half from here. It was where it was created. So I'm starting to get a little bit light green, not horribly strong green, but I'm not. I still have plenty of spirulina powder and sugar here. I'm still adding. I've got real kind of a pretty green. Again, the color sometimes darkens up on me after it freezes. So that's why I'm kind of slowly adding it. I don't want to and I can save that for later, put that in a little baggie or a little container and use it again. It's not like I'm going to waste that. But I've got a real pretty, I don't know if you can see it. It's not coming through probably on the camera very well, but it's starting to turn a nice shade of green. A little shamrock green there. It should have said top of the morning to you, but almost the bottom of the morning right now, isn't it? I have a couple friends on here today. I'm not sure if they're joined us. Annie McDougal, she's at the Max Ice Cream in Virginia. And Jean Maluzzi is over in North Carolina, a little bit further off to the east. Not sure if they made it, but I saw they're signed up. So howdy, shout out to you. All right, so I'm probably about where I would like to be. I've still got some left. It's just a nice light shamrock green. Again, it doesn't need to be overly colored. I think a lot of people nowadays, if they see that overly colored, they kind of turns them off in some ways. So I used a whisk today. Again, if you have an immersion blender, which I happen to have one here, but I thought, I'm just going to try to do it this way. Um, you can certainly immerse blend that really good, and that would certainly help too. But if you don't have that at home, just use a good old whisk in your elbows. Just checking again, because sometimes if you add something, you want to make sure that didn't overpower the flavor you were trying to go for. Do I need to add anything? Do I need to balance it back out with a little bit more mint? I think I'm good. It's a light mint. Again, I think we're good. So with that, we are going to go ahead and run this, process it, batch freeze it for us. So I'm using the Carpigiani Ready Chef. This is a great little model um, to do smaller batches. It's a powerful little machine. It can do a lot of different stuff. Like I said, I've already sanitized it, drained it out, and got it all cleared up. And again, want to make sure you're getting all your product out as much as you can, because that's sometimes your flavoring sticks to the bottom. You want to make sure you scrape the bottoms and the sides real well, because you put it in there, you paid for it, you want to make sure you account for it. All right, so it's in. We're going to get this thing started up. Got to get down to ice cream because this one has a lot of choices on it. Say okay. Leave that at 100. Okay, so we got our mint chocolate chip batch freezing for us. And we are going to get started on our Irish cream. I have already also too gotten the chocolate chips out. I love chocolate chips in my ice cream. So, and we kind of go heavy in our shop as well. So I've got almost 2 cups here and we'll fold those in at our extraction. So when that ice cream's done and coming out, that's when we're going to fold in our chocolate chips. So I'm going to set those over there, get those ready. And another thing on this chocolate mint, by the way, let me tell you, kind of point this out, is we're going to use just a Hershey's chocolate chip right there, little mini chips. Again, I prefer the mini chips over the big chocolate chips because in your mouth, it's that feel. It's this chocolate, big chocolate chips are just too much. But another thing you can do is you can use chocolate flakes or a stracciatella, which we're going to use a little bit in the Irish cream. So you could add that in for a different texture because you break that chocolate stracciatella in there as well. There's no way that's done. Let's try that again. Ah, I think I've set too low. All right, hopefully that'll work for us. If not, we'll figure it out. All right, so Irish cream. Again, since I'm using the same machine, I'm going to use the same amount here. Now, both of these flavors are kind of a pronounced flavor. So you've got the mint in this one, and you've got the chocolate or the coffee strong in this one with a little bit of chocolate mixed in, blended in, because you're going to see on the recipe it's like chocolate, sweetened condensed milk, coffee flavoring, some vanilla. So it's a lighter shade. Technically, again, you'd want to do that one first. I wanted to go ahead and get the mint done. We're going to rinse between them. The mint could leave a little bit of a flavoring in there. So I always do my mints at the last of my day. So that's just another tidbit too, just to kind of think about as well. We'll be fine. All right, so the Irish cream recipe, that one again, on your recipes, you're getting 2 versions. You're getting the alcohol version and you're getting the non-alcoholic version. So we're going to do the alcohol-free version today. Again, starting with 1,000 grams, 1,000 liters, 3,000 liters, sorry, 3,000 liters of the Meadowvale 14%. I'm going to be taking some cocoa. We're just using the Calabo 2224 high-fat cocoa powder, sifted cocoa. I've got that already lined up here in the bowl. I've got some vanilla flavoring or vanilla extract, double fold vanilla extract. Get our mints out of the way. Going to be putting in some espresso powder for the coffee flavor. Put that back here. And our sweetened condensed milk. And just a tiny pinch of fine sea salt. Okay, so I've got those are my ingredients. And I did grab a little bit. I'm going to see what this looks like when we're done because we are adding the coffee and the cocoa, so we might be okay. But I also grabbed just a little bit of caramel color just in case I don't feel like it's dark enough to be Irish cream, but we'll see. That way we can play with the color, change it up a little bit there. And then when it's being extracted or coming out of the machine, we're going to stracciatella, put a chocolate breaking ribbon in there and break it up. Okay, looks like we're doing pretty good back here now. All right, so when you have your cocoa and your coffee your dry ingredients. Go ahead and mix those up a little bit together as well. And then fresh spatula here, or a whisk, I'm gonna kind of fold that together. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take my sweetened condensed milk and whisk that into, actually, I might put my vanilla in there. There we go. Get that out of the way for a minute. And I'm just gonna take the sweetened condensed milk and start to put in my chocolate coffee mix. Again, I'm trying to make a kind of almost probably a creamy paste out of it. And I'm going to fold in then to my base before I process it, before I run it, and then we'll mix it good. We might have to get the immersion blender out for this one. Again, I did not want to just throw my cocoa and coffee in there because that could result in a clumping up. I've done that myself a couple times, learned the hard way. Still edible, just doesn't look very pretty. And I don't want to forget my pinch of salt, which I'm going to throw in here in just a second. Still trying to get all the dry and wet combined. Irish cream ice cream is a been a strong seller for us in our shop during this March season. Especially those coffee ice cream lovers, tends to err kind of on that flavor profile, so they kind of like that. I, of course, don't sell alcohol version in our shop, but okay, now I'm smelling it better too. All right. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and add that into my base. And before I forget, on this one that we're bringing out, I did choose to go ahead and use a clear gelato pan today since it's a smaller batch. And I want you to be able to see the color and the chips in it. If you're doing ice cream, you do it in your whatever containers you're used to putting ice cream in. If you use a row pack or you use a box or use gelato pans, that's fine. I'm just going to do the clear one today so you guys can see it. Just know that the same process of folding in the chips at the end and the recipe is still the same. Again, trying to get as much out of there with the spatula as I can, because remember, as you measure stuff, you got a certain percentage of waste left in your bowl. You want to always remember that. Count for that. Now, I'm going to try this whisk, but I might pull out the immersion blender. Yeah, I think we'll be okay, actually. Okay, so that color came out really nice. It's almost chocolatey brown, a little bit darker than I would ever actually imagine for Irish cream, but we'll taste it here in a second. Sorry. The base is a pre-made 14% Meadowvale. If you found just a generic ice cream based recipe online somewhere, if you're at home and you're making it, maybe you're going to try the cream and the milk and the sugar, that type of thing. Just find yourself a good base recipe that you like to use and start from there. And then the flavoring stuff is the same. The thing that's going to change your strength of flavors on these a lot of times is that fat percentage that you end up in with whatever base you choose. So just keep that in mind. If you go a less base or a higher base, sorry, you go a higher base, you're going to have to go a higher flavor. You're going to have to add a little bit more in flavoring just to get that, because that butter fat's going to absorb that flavor. So you want to make sure that that's just accounted for. All right, I'm going to taste this to see where we're at on it. To me, it needs a little bit more. It's missing the Baileys to me. Mm. Okay. So that second taste helped me. I was trying to get that coffee flavor. First time I got like just chocolate. Now I'm getting that coffee kind of coming through. And that's what's kind of fun about the flavors too, that you get when you blend flavors like coffee and chocolate, two competing flavors. One is going to take a forward on your palate, the other is going to take a back. So it's fun to kind of let it play through. And I did get the coffee and the chocolate at different points there. So, all right, now machine says it's ready. Yeah. Stabilizers are already included in this base. If you're using a stabilizer and making your own home recipe, a lot of times they're going to call for maybe an egg to make it a custard style, or they may be asking you to add in a Gower gum or some other locust bean gum or some other stabilizer to that recipe. Generally, at home, you don't need to stabilize it because you're freezing it at home and you're eating it right away. You know, it's when you get into the shop and you're sitting in your cabinet for so long, yes, you want to keep a stabilizer in it for sure there. Hope that answered the question. All right, let me get this one done and out of here. Actually, hold up, lower pan. All right, grabbing my chips. Go to extract. Now it's kind of hard to see again on this, that probably on the camera, that green is not very green um, for the camera, but it's a very pretty light chiffon green here. So what I did is just let some of it out, put some of those out in there, and then I'm just going to kind of push them down, doing a little twisty motion, making sure some get to the bottom. And this is about the same procedure too. A lot of times I teach my ice cream makers, if I'm making it, to do about half of the bucket or box, whatever you're putting it in, add your chips, twist halfway, push to the bottom. Now I'm going to release more. And when I add the chips this time, I'm not going to push to the bottom. I'm going to push about halfway. So hopefully if the pan was nice and chilled and it's starting to frost up. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but it's actually beautiful green, beautiful shade of green. And it probably will get a little darker. I'm very happy with the color, actually. Just hard to probably show you on the camera. I'm one that prefers kind of this shade, not the bright neon green. When you go to some of these mints and they're like almost as green as my shirt, that's not right. All right, we got just about everything out of there. So I'll bring it over here and you can kind of show you again. I don't know if you can see that green any better there. Probably against my shirt, maybe it shows that green, but you can see that the chips are halfway down, but there's no chips on top yet. So that's what I'm going to do now. Yeah.
What stabilizers and not used? How long the shelf life between the two in terms of expiration?
That's going to depend on a lot of conditions based on, how are you storing it? Your stabilizers are helping to prolong the life in the right temperatures. So of course, if your temperatures aren't right, your product depends on too what you're putting in, the flavorings and things. A lot of the flavorings and stuff, some of them have stabilizers in them already to help with that as well. Just, if you don't use a product that has a stabilizer in it, that's something to consider as well. As far as length, I would say, with a stabilizer, a lot of our ice creams, we say can last up to like 6 months or more. I would say if you had no stabilizer or you were trying to use a different one, you're going to have to play with it in your particular application. Um, is it becoming icy? Is it becoming sticky and gooey when you pull it up, right? Those are all indicators your stabilizers are not effective or doing something different. So I wanted to show you this too, that I have got chips in, and I've got a lot of chips left. So I'm used to adding quite a bit of chips to ours in our shop. But when I look at this, I'm thinking this is pretty good. So this is, again, kind of up to you especially when you're creating it the first time. Maybe you think, okay, that's enough chips. And stop. You don't have to add all of them. And I'm kind of opening up a little bit of holes back here. I like to do that. I like to do that even when it's coming out at my shop. If I find a little hole, I put some down in there and just make sure it has some in there. So now, when you're finished, if you've got a pan display like this one would be, then I might take, some of my chips and just literally put a few more on top. Maybe if you had some fresh mint or even an artificial mint leaf, stick it right in there and decorate it and be real pretty for St. Patty's Day. Maybe a little leprechaun hat would be cute in there. Either way, but that's your mint chocolate chip. Again, cleaning up your tray, your pan. If you have a bucket, clean off your edges before you put the lid on it so it's not sticking when you put the lid off. And then you're going to simply stick that in your hardening cabinet. If you don't have a hardening cabinet, make sure you stick it immediately or as fast as possible into your deep freezer. Yes.
Nancy asked, how many fees do you recommend we start my small business of gelato? I have a gelato course with the Bravo machine, but you guys have a machine similar, which also does pasteurization.
Well, heat treatment of the base for small batches, I would always think too, if you're starting a small gelato shop, where's your plans? Where are you going to go with that, right? You think you start small now, but you make somehow the best product in the world, right? And now people are coming knocking at your door. Well, here you are stuck with this tiny little machine trying to make and make and make and make, and you're going to be tethered to the machine. I would certainly think ahead, plan for the future, probably look at a True 2 Ready. That one also does the heat treatment of your base, and it will go right into freezing it and stuff like that. So contact Carpigiani. They'll certainly help you. It's not, to me, it's my favorite machine is the True 2 Ready because I can do everything on it, just about. I can do gelatos, I can do ice creams, I can do Italian ices, I can do granitas, I can do the heat treatment of things. So that's a great machine. This one's a little smaller version called a Ready Chef 1420, and it does a whole kit and caboodle of stuff too. Check it out on Carpigiani's website as well. But again, it's a small, I'm going to go ahead and pop the opening on that. You can kind of see there's a little bit of product left in there. It's not a big deal for us. But this chamber is about, I believe, a 4 or 5 quart. I think it's 5 quart, if I remember right. So it's about that deep and probably about that round. Okay. So that makes a pan or two, probably a pan at each time. And you're going to be making that, making that, making that. Go to the next size or even the next size up if you have the funds and the space for it, because you are going to need it and you want to be able to meet that demand later on. So that's where I would recommend. I don't know if that answered your question, I hope. Okay, good, good. All right. Great machine. Now, this little one is a good one for like if you have the funds to have like a small machine to do research and development with. These are great for that because you can make a small batch like this, then scale up that recipe for your larger machine. That's another thing I wanted to throw out there. All right. Sorry, I've got an alert, but I can throw that off. Okay, so now our mint is still left in the machine, right? So we need to go ahead and clean that out because I don't want mint Irish cream. Although, I don't know. It would be St. Patty's Day. It could work. I don't know. We've had some inventions of flavors that way sometimes. We did not intend to. All right, let me just stick that in there because we're going to mix that up one more time. All right, so now we're going to take some. I just took my sanitizer out earlier. I'm going to reuse that right here. My doors are closed. Any more questions? This is a great time to throw that in while we switch over our machine. All right, I'm going to take and clean the front of this a little bit too, because even if you're switching flavors, you want to remember, and I've got a little extra sanitizer down here too. So you want to remember that you've got that mint on the dispatch chute here. On a lot of the machines, this one has the availability. It just doesn't, in the demo kitchen here, we don't have one, but you have the availability to put a hose on it, which is, oh my gosh, that's, couldn't recommend that enough on any machine you get. It's got to have a hose. That saves a lot of trouble. When we started out, we had a one without a hose, and we had to go get to the sink, get a bucket of water, bring it over here. If it wasn't clean enough, get another bucket at the sink, bring it over here, dump it in. It's much easier if you just get a hose on your machine. All right, I know that was gonna, some of that was useless because I'm going to do it again, but when you open these doors too, be careful. And in a lot of these machines, don't open it all the way. Give it a little bit of a pull up, let it drain at least halfway before you empty it all the way. Like open the door all the way, because it'll just fly out at you. You see there, even though it's still a little bit too much. Okay. I'm just checking inside because I think we need to do a little bit more, at least a water flush. Dump this out. Okay, that looks pretty good. So again, this is where your production schedule, if you're in a shop, you want to make sure you line that up correctly. Your lights to darks, your non-mints to to the mints, because it can be a little bit cumbersome. Sometimes it's just the matter of what it is. You've got to get mint made, but you got a customers really want it, and now you can't get to it, and sometimes it's just a matter. You got to do what you got to do. But for speed and efficiency, think about that. Okay. Put our shelf back on here. Oop, thought it was on. There we go. All right. So we've got our Irish cream base, and it will get a little lighter. Remember, what we're adding to is going to help make that, as we've added everything but one ingredient here. This little guy is going to do the rest of it for us. And at my shop, I always have my spatula and everything right next to me there, so I keep forgetting to bring one over. All right, so we'll get ready to run this one. Ice cream. Oh, good, it stayed there. We're going to go with right where it was. So it should start up there. Yep, there it goes. All right. Any other questions while we finish that one processing? So flavors for St. Patty's Day. Just a couple others that I would mention here. Lucky Charms, if you have a shop, that's a fun one to make. It's a kind of a cereal-based ice cream one. And we like to color it a little bit light green, almost the shade of my mint that I just got out for you. Put some Lucky Charms and blend that in there. Put some of the marshmallows in it. Kids love it. It's kind of a cereal flavor. I should say adults love it too. I'm not a big fan of it because I don't like cereal milk flavor stuff. Um, so it's not my cup of tea, but it is a good seller for us. I'm trying to think of another one we do. We do the mint chip all year round. We do the Irish cream. Any others that people out there have tried? Maybe share out here. Yes. I am not familiar with that machine in Italy. Okay. Um, if it's a small machine, are they thinking like the Paco Jet, which was basically what a Ninja Creamy is now, similar to that? Yeah. I know that the LB, there's an LB 100, which is very similar to this, but a very basic machine. Doesn't do all the bells and whistles of the Ready Chef. Very similar in size. LB 100 is another great one to have, like if you had it research and development in your kitchen, small restaurant type of thing. Hold on, Olivia's showing me a picture here. Sorry. Oh, okay, the top one. So there's no Carpigiani that I know of does not have yet it's what I consider it a French pot style. It's the vertical mixer type. They don't have one of those for home use yet. I believe they're working on a larger one, possibly for store front, I believe. Yeah. Um, but not that one. So small, if you're going to try, if you really want to go into a really nice batch freezer, LB 100 would be where at home or a small shop or a restaurant, LB 100 all the way, because that's going to be a really good one for you. Maybe even a 200. And again, check with Carpigiani and your local sales rep for distributor. They can help you with that as well. But those are good machines for batching ice cream in smaller batches and playing with your flavors and experimenting and checking things out. So a note about the stracciatella, this is a pre-gel already in a bottle, but you can get it in a tub, and then you take and scoop it out and put it in a bowl, melt it, and you can pour it. You can also make your own. I just found this back there. I thought it'd be easier for us today to be able to show you how I use this. But if you take a chocolate Calais and you melt it down and you add oils to it, you can get that crunchiness to it, which is what this is going to do. So it's basically the same thing. So if you have access to a restaurant depot, or if you have access even to a grocery store can carry chocolate chips, you can melt those down. I would tend to go towards the dark chocolate because it's going to be a lower fat. It's going to be higher, a little bit more bitterness. Then the coconut oil, we add coconut oil, but make sure it is not the flavored or the smelly coconut oil, because then coconut comes through. There are ones out there, I forget the name of it. There's a word for it, and maybe somebody out there can tell me, but there's a certain way that coconut oils are processed. There's two versions when you go to the grocery store. The first time I bought it and I used it, I was like, because I don't like coconut very much, and I could taste the coconut through the oil. Refined coconut oil. And so once you use that, then it seems to be okay. I don't taste it. It just does what it's supposed to do. But you can use vegetable oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil. Don't use olive oil because that's got that strong olive taste coming through that you can't get rid of. Any flavorless oil you're going to be fine with. And you just add a little bit of that to your melted chocolate, melt them separately, put them together, mix it up, and then you have a stracciatella. You just add it into your ice cream as we come out here. So I'm going to show you that today with this. Yes. The regular base, yes, I just added everything to the regular base. So the recipe you're getting is basically what I did, and I just added it to the neutral base. The neutral base does have some sugars in it already, but it's generally a lower amount, just enough that if you want to add sugars to flavoring it, and you can. A lot of times, if I wanted like a brown sugar ice cream, I can add up like a pound of brown sugar to 2.5 gallons, and I get a nice brown sugary sweet ice cream, and it still freezes fine. Everything handles fine with it. So on this, what I was going to say too is this comes solid. So when you pick up the bottle, you can feel it. It's hard. So I always take the lids off, and I've already done it on this one, and take the metal. There's a little metal foil lid on this. If you get something like that, check under the lid before you stick it in the microwave because sometimes they're using foil. And then microwaved it for about, I think it was like 40 seconds or so. Took 20 seconds, shook it out, and then 20 seconds, shook it some more. So it stays, while you're working, it stays pretty liquidy while you're working, but it will harden back up over time. If it does that, just stick it in the microwave again. So we'll have that ready to go. Again, and you could flavor your Irish cream with different things. I was looking up that before we got started, and because I was like chocolate and Irish cream, I was like, okay, I've not done that. I've just done Irish cream flavor, and then the customers put something on it if they want. That's certainly one way to do it. And that's one way I look at it too is like in my shop, I love to put the add-ins in, the inclusions, but at the same time, I try to hold back on some of those because it's an opportunity for the customer to customize their product, for their ice cream the way they want it too. But we're big on inclusions, but we'd also have to say, okay, enough is enough. So we got this ready. That's all we're waiting on now. Any other questions right now that we have? Anybody think of any other St. Patty's Day flavors? I can't think of any more right now off the top of my head. I don't think you'd want like, isn't there a meat that we eat St. Patty's Day and stuff like that? Don't want a meat ice cream. No, no, no. Or beer flavored ice cream. Yeah. Ugh. No, thank you. But having fun with the alcohol ice creams is something you can play with. Just be careful if, this is more at home, you would play with this. And just be careful with the amount of alcohol you're using in your product because it will affect the freezing level as well. All right, we're just about done with our Irish cream back here, so I'm going to get my tray ready. There we go. Now this one happens to have an extraction speed. I'm not used to that in my shop. We don't have that, so it comes out one fell swoop. We don't have no control over that. So this time I did slow it down because I kind of want to show you when I do the stracciatella, I am just literally coating the top of it. I'm going to shut that down for just a second. I don't know if, and I wanted you to see that before I proceed, but you can kind of see I just strung some over there. And yeah, this kind of got in the way, sorry. But as it's hardening, there's a shine to it, right? There's a shine. When I put it down, it's liquid wet. But as it's getting cold, that shine is disappearing. So that's my cue that I can go ahead and crunch that up. I think we're okay. I'm going to keep running. Can I come up to this camera here? So you can kind of see it's okay. So see how it's kind of breaking apart in there? It was a ribbon and now it's breaking. So I'm not going to destroy all of that. I just want to gently break that up. And I'm going to go back and add more on top of this. And even if you add more on top of that, as you kind of fold your spatula or spoon into it, it'll break up because it's getting cold in there. And again, I'm just kind of doing a down twist, down twist, down twist motion. I'm not stirring it. The new product, I'm just pushing off to the sides to kind of spread it out. I'm going to close that off just to give myself another flat layer to put some more stracciatella on there. Again, the shine is there. Wait just a few seconds. You'll see that shine start to dissipate or go away. While that's starting to come down the chute, I'm breaking this up. Again, all this becomes second nature kind of when you keep doing it and doing it. This actually looks really good now. See, the color, I was a little bit concerned with, but once you add that air, it brings it down. It kind of tone that chocolate look down. So again, I'm just pulling it off the machine. I've got a nice slow. I'm not letting the machine push me. That's one nice thing about this one. I can have a little bit more control over it. Now it is timed, so after I believe 3 minutes, if it's like other Carpigianis I've worked on, 3 minutes, it's going to stop regardless of whether it's empty or not. And there are ways around getting the rest of it out, but I think we'll be okay because it's almost done. And I'm just letting it all come out, and I'm going to go ahead and stracciatella some more. And if you've ever done like a vanilla stracciatella, it's an Italian chocolate chip. It's probably my wife is not a big fan of it. It's one of my favorites, and I have a lovely Italian friend at near one of our locations, and she looks for it a lot. And now that I say that, I need to go be making that again. It's not something we always have, but it is a good one. Okay, and that's usually just with a nice kind of a light vanilla or sweet cream base with the chocolate stracciatella added. It's not real overly sweet. So again, just adding in on top. I've got a shine. I'm waiting for that shine to just kind of dull up a little bit. If you've ever had, another thing you could use for this at home, guys, is the chocolate shell you can buy at the grocery store. You can buy, just go get yourself a bottle of chocolate shell, magic shell, I think they call it still. And it's the same thing. And then you just, again, twist it in, breaking it up. Broken ribbon. I think that's what stracciatella translates to, if I'm right. So again, I did not push all the way down into that because I've already got stracciatella ribbons down underneath there. So now I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit more on top just to present it. So as I serve that, then that is going to be clean up my pan. Again, that decorations, doesn't take me very long. You can kind of see how that chocolate, I'm going to pull that out just so you guys can see it. You can kind of see how that chocolate hardened up. Very nice. Now I'm getting that chocolate. That's very good. I'm getting that coffee and that chocolate flavor combining together. Oh, it's really good. So let's let that freeze up in our hardening cabinet. Yeah, I could sell some of that, that's for sure. That's good. And so then as the process of after that, and if you're done with the production, you're going to go through the same thing I was doing earlier, where I added the sanitizer in. Go ahead and clean out your machine, break it all down, make sure all the parts are clean, make sure they're they're allowed to dry off before you put the machine back together. So we won't bore you with all that today, but any last questions that I have for our St. Patty's Day March edition of our seasonal flavors presentation? Nothing? All right. Well, I either answer all the questions or it's gonna stew in your brain. Very good. You're very welcome. We wish everybody a happy St. Patty's Day, and may the luck of the Irish be with you.